Hey guys, welcome to my adrenal fatigue masterclass where I'm going to teach you all of the things you need to know about your adrenal glands, what they do, how important they are. You are going to learn so much by the end of our time today. As you get going, open up your chat box and I want to be interactive. I'm going to be asking questions, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. I get to see your answers. So please participate, put your answers in the box. As you jump on, open up your chat box and tell me hi, tell me where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from, and tell me if there's anything in particular you want to learn today about adrenal fatigue or potentially the connections adrenal fatigue has to other issues. Tell me if there's anything you are hoping to get out of this time. So open up your chat box, say hi, and we'll get going. As I ask questions, drop those answers in the chat box as well. And we're going to have some fun. We're going to make this interactive. I'm going to teach you a lot. But my hope for you is that you leave this time with some hope. Most women who come to me feel like they've tried a lot of things, right? Rarely am I the first person you talk to. Rarely is this the first webinar you're watching. You've been struggling with different symptoms or health issues. For a lot of women, it's fatigue or weight gain, or they just can't lose weight, or they have chronic pain, or they're getting these diagnoses or these autoimmune conditions, and they don't understand why, and they're searching for answers. And a lot of times, when you keep looking for answers and you don't get what you're looking for, you can end up really feeling hopeless. And I know for myself, as we go through tonight or today, whenever you're watching this, I'm going to share my story. And that's really where I got to myself as well, is just really from a place of hopelessness, being like, there has to be something I'm missing. There's got to be a reason I feel like this. And that, if nothing else, by the time you're done watching, I want you to know that if you have physical symptoms in your body, no matter what they are, there is always a reason, right? And you need to find your reason. And what I'm going to teach you about adrenal glands is that a lot of times adrenal function is at the root of what's going on and why you have those symptoms. So I want to start by sharing a story with you of a sweet lady that I've worked with, because I think her story will resonate with a lot of you. I'll share several different stories because I believe when you realize other people are going through something similar, it can give you hope that you also can find answers and find that hope. So let's get started. We have lots of things to cover, and then ask any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll get rocking and rolling. So I'm going to pull up my slideshow. I'm going to go back and forth between a couple of slides, but also just talking so that we have lots of interaction. If you don't know, this is me, Dr. Shannyn Pearce. I am a holistic healthcare advocate. I am just a champion for women finding answers, regaining their vibrant health, and getting to live the life that they love and love the body that they're in, which so many of us don't feel that way because of some of these chronic and debilitating things going on that we just don't have answers for. So I have lived it myself. I've walked through a very dark health journey, and I believe I went through all of that so that now I can use what I learned to help others get the same freedom and the same health that I now get to live in every single day. And a lot of what I'm going to teach you guys through this class is exactly what I did to regain my health and how my adrenals were such a big piece of that puzzle. So welcome. So glad you're here. I would like you to meet Margaret. Margaret, like many women, was a mother, a wife. She was busy. She lived a really busy life. And for probably decades, she put everyone in front of herself, right? We were doing everything for everyone else. And it's not uncommon to let our own physical health slide when we're really busy. So then over the years, she started realizing, man, this weight just keeps coming on. I don't feel like myself. She was having really bad joint pain. She was exhausted. She was starting to get anxious. She felt stressed all the time. And she decided, like most people, she's like, you know what? I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start getting my life back. So she did, right? Started eating better, started doing some exercises. And guess what? Nothing changed. The weight wasn't moving. The energy wasn't getting better. Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like that. I want you to put the number 1 in the comment box. Do you ever feel like it doesn't matter how much I exercise? It doesn't matter how much I restrict my calories. It doesn't matter how much effort I put in. I don't feel like anything's working. In fact, maybe like Margaret, she felt worse. She's like, the more I exercise, the more tired I am. The weight's not budging. It doesn't matter if I eat the burger or the salad. I still end up weighing the same tomorrow. I'm so frustrated and I'm so sick of trying when my efforts aren't paying off in what I'm seeing in the mirror. And she was so frustrated. She was really at the point, she's like, I don't want to try anymore because nothing I do is working. She would go to her doctors. And some of you, again, drop a number 1 in the comments if this sounds like you. She's like, well, it must be something wrong, right? Maybe it's my thyroid. Maybe there's something going on. She would go to her doctors and all of her labs would come back normal. And she would be told you're busy. She'd be told you're stressed. They would tell her, oh, you just have to exercise more, but give her no instruction on how to do that. Or, maybe you just need to relax, or you're getting older. This is normal, right? Have you ever heard any of those things from a healthcare practitioner that you visited? And for a lot of women, we accept that. We're like, oh, maybe it is that, right? Maybe I am lazy. Maybe I do need to work out harder. I am just getting older, maybe gaining, in her case, almost 100 pounds. Maybe that's just normal, right? Let me tell you right now, that is not just normal. But what we found out with Margaret, like I find out with a lot of women, her very busy life, her wearing every hat, right? Your mom, your nurse, your chauffeur, your PTA president, your whatever, all your hats that you're wearing wore her out. She was in very severe adrenal burnout. And what you're going to learn in our time together is if your adrenals are burnt out, if you have an adrenal problem, nothing else works the way you want it to, right? You're not lazy. You're not crazy. You are actually in burnout where physically your body doesn't have the energy to burn fat, to give you libido, to allow you to have energy, to let your hair grow back. If your body is physically burnt out, no matter how much you exercise or no matter how good you eat, it is not going to make you feel that much better. And just like Margaret, a lot of us get stuck in that trap. However, when you find that piece of the puzzle, when you know how to properly support your body, you can make the right decisions as far as what you should eat, what you should exercise, what you should be doing to support your physical body. And with less effort than she was putting in prior, she got way better results. This before and after picture is only across maybe about 6 or 7 months because she finally got her body to where she could actually burn fat and feel better again. So I want her story to give you real life hope, right? This is a real woman who had real issues. She just made some changes. She figured out what was going on with her body, and it made a tremendous difference. But I really want to encourage you, if you have not thought of your adrenal function as part of why you feel like nothing's working, that's got to change. Adrenals are so important. And let me show you why. So number 1, what are the adrenal glands? I know you probably heard that word before, but a lot of people have no idea what they are. What do they do? So let's go through some of the basics so you understand what we're talking about. Your adrenal glands are little triangle-shaped glands that sit on top of your kidneys, right? One on each side in your back. And they are most well known for stress management, right? We think, oh, when I'm stressed, my adrenals get stressed out, or cortisol and stress hormone. And yes, that's true. However, these glands have a ton more jobs that we don't give them credit for, that most people don't even know they do, which is why they impact so many different things. So over these next 2 slides, I'm going to teach you what jobs they do, and if they're not working properly, what potential symptoms you can have. And I want you to tell me as we go through this, does any of this sound like you? Are you experiencing these symptoms? Have you been diagnosed with some of these issues? And if you have, I really want your brain starting to think, oh, maybe this is an adrenal problem that's contributing to all of these other issues, because your adrenal glands are small but mighty, and they need to be well functioning. So here's what they do. And this is even just a short list. I put the most important things on here to keep it simple. But not only do your adrenal glands help you regulate stress, they also help you produce hormones, especially if you're perimenopausal, menopausal, or have had a hysterectomy. It is even more important that your adrenals work well because they help you produce hormones so that you can keep a nice hormone balance. Bet you didn't know that. Not just stress, They produce hormones, they help balance hormones. They help regulate your metabolism, physically allowing your body to burn fat as well as balance blood sugars, right? So if you have hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, too much or too little blood sugars that bounce around, start thinking, oh, maybe, yes, there's probably some nutritional piece, but maybe my adrenals aren't helping me regulate my blood sugars. They assist in burning fat. They support your immune system. They are highly connected to different autoimmune conditions because they really help regulate and support immune function. They regulate blood pressure. One of the most common sources of high blood pressure in women in particular is an adrenal dysfunction that affects the hormone called aldosterone that directly impacts your blood pressure. So if you have blood pressure you can't seem to get under control, or often I'll have the woman come who says, I'm on blood pressure medication, but my blood pressure is still running like 140, 150, even on the medication, potentially this is an adrenal issue, right? And not just strictly a cardiovascular issue, which is why the medication is not balancing the blood pressure. It controls your stress response. Ladies, please in the comments tell me, are you a little bit stressed or a lot of bit stressed, right? Most of us have so much stress, just daily busyness, things to do, actual stressors with family and finances and health, that our adrenal glands are taking a beating over and over and over again. And at some point, they become unable to manage the amount of stress that we're under. So if that's you and you know there's been stress for decades or years, or you're chronically busy, stressed, in a hurry, you are doing some major damage to those adrenal glands. And for most of us, unfortunately, that's the environment that we live in. Adrenal glands also help manage your inflammation. Another thing people don't understand, chronic inflammation, puffiness. We know inflammation is the root of most disease processes, right? Including arthritis and bone health and different cancers and autoimmune conditions. And healthy adrenal glands can help us balance our inflammation. And they are also one of the biggest pieces in the communication to your thyroid function. I'm going to teach you in this class how important adrenals are when it comes to thyroid, yet we're so quick to diagnose a thyroid issue, yet we almost never check the adrenal glands. They're connected, they work together. So all of these things, if you have blood sugar issues, if you have inflammation issues, if you have weight loss issues, if you have blood pressure issues, if you have hormone imbalance, if you have anything on this list, again, start turning light bulbs on. Oh man, I bet you something's going on with my adrenal glands, right? So tell me in the comments, do you have one or more things on this list? Or how many do you have, right? All of them, 4 of them, 5 of them? How many of these potential adrenal related issues are you experiencing? I just want you to start thinking, oh man, yeah, this is connected. And then here are some symptoms, right? Common symptoms of adrenal fatigue. Now, you might have one of these, you might have all of these, but these are the most common things connected with adrenal fatigue. 1, fatigue, even when you're rested. So the biggest thing I'll hear is, I can sleep 8 or 10 hours and I still wake up exhausted. And no matter how much rest I get, I never feel like I have energy. Waking when it doesn't feel warranted. Like I didn't change that much, right? I'm not eating a whole lot more. I didn't go crazy, yet I put on this extra 15 or 20 pounds and it came out of nowhere. Mood changes or easy irritability. For me, this is one of the major things that I felt with my adrenal glands. It was like little things annoyed me so badly. Like I couldn't be on the phone and have my kids talking in the background, or I would just be irritable. It would annoy me. I would be really short-tempered, or inability to multitask the way you used to be able to. I used to easily be able to do 2 or 3 things at the same time. And when my adrenals were fatigued, I really lost the ability to be able to do multiple things at once. I had to focus really hard on whatever task I was doing because I couldn't multitask anymore. That's a really big sign of adrenal fatigue. Cravings for sweet and salty in particular, because your body wants energy. And because you're so tired, it's asking you to give it things that will give it a quick source of energy, like sweet and salty. So if out of nowhere over the last few years, you're like, I'm all of a sudden a sweets person. I was never like that. Maybe your adrenals are trying to tell you they need a little bit of extra support. Dizziness, this is a big one, especially going from sitting to standing or up the stairs. If you're going up a flight of stairs and you feel like that lightheadedness, that dizziness, or you get up fast and you get that kind of head rush, more often than not, that is highly linked to a potential adrenal fatigue issue. The easy overwhelm, we already talked about that. Blood sugar imbalances, blood pressure, like we touched on, hormone imbalance, in particular, having low progesterone. If you have chronically deficient progesterone, your adrenal glands are actually connected to your progesterone. A lot of people don't realize progesterone actually makes cortisol. Your progesterone drains into cortisol. So when your adrenals are fatigued, it's going to continue to eat up your progesterone. So if you've had chronically low progesterone and all they've done for you is maybe give you like a bioidentical or progesterone, but never did anything to balance your adrenal glands, you are missing such a huge piece of that healing puzzle because they work together. The simple tasks and little or no improvement on thyroid medication. I'm going to stop here for a second because this is big. Tell me in the comments, are you either somebody who you were having a lot of thyroid symptoms and you went to your doctor and they put you on thyroid medication and you were expecting it to change your life, right? You're like, I'm going to get on this medication. I'm going to feel so good. The weight's going to fall off. My hair's going to grow back. I'm going to feel amazing. And you get on the medication and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. You don't really feel a whole lot different, right? And you go back and they recheck your levels and they say, no, your TSH is great. The medication's working wonderful. We don't know what's going on. And then you're right back to, well, you're probably stressed. You are getting older. Maybe you should exercise more, right? The same things Margaret would hear, the same things woman after woman after woman tells me when I talk to them is when they run out of answers, all of a sudden you're stressed, you're getting older, and you need to exercise and eat better, yet you do all of those things and nothing changes, right? Tell me in the comments if that's you. Or you swear it's a thyroid issue and you go in and they check and they say, oh no, nothing's wrong with your thyroid. That looks great, but you're still having all the same symptoms, yet they don't check your adrenal glands. Are you following me on this? A lot of the symptoms we just went over with adrenals can really mimic what goes on when you have a thyroid issue because they're connected. So you might be one of those women, either you're on thyroid medication and it didn't really do a whole lot, or you thought it was your thyroid and they told you, no, your thyroid was fine, but they didn't dig further to check adrenal function. So you're still struggling with those same symptoms. Or maybe you're new to this and you're just starting to get these symptoms and you're thinking maybe it's thyroid. I highly encourage you, you need to check both. And here's why. I'm going to pull back up my slideshow. This is really important for you guys to understand. When it comes to thyroid function, I want you, and if you can't read this, I'm going to read it for you. This is from the Synthroid website, okay? So Synthroid is the most common prescribed thyroid medication. Sometimes it can go by levothyroxine, that's the generic. There's lots of different names, but this is any thyroid medication, okay? I just pulled it from the Synthroid website. On their website, they say that the #1 contraindication for not being on a thyroid medication, that means reason you shouldn't be on a thyroid medication, is if you have uncorrected adrenal problems. Right on their website. They said if you have adrenal problems, you should not start a thyroid medication. Here's why I show you this. If you are here right now and you are on a thyroid medication, did they check your adrenal function first? Because per the website for the actual thyroid medication, they should have, but did they? Yes or no? Answer in the comments. Because almost always the answer I get is no, they never checked that. Well, they should have, because not only maybe the thyroid medication is not right for you, maybe it's actually creating more harm than good if you have uncorrected adrenal problems. So if you are that person and you're on a thyroid medication, that means next step, you need to check your adrenals because you need to support them at the same time you support your thyroid. That is incredibly important. And it's one of the main reasons why women get on thyroid medication and don't feel like it makes that big of a difference, or maybe made a little bit of a difference, but there's still lots of other things you're struggling with that it didn't help with. Adrenals are tiny glands with lots and lots and lots of jobs, which is why it blows my mind that they're still so under-tested. There is very little help for adrenal function. They're almost just forgotten about. And I believe the reason for that is, here's my professional opinion, there really isn't a medication for adrenal function. Follow me? So a lot of times in our healthcare system, they will only check things, values, blood work, whatever, that they have an answer for. So with thyroid, that's an easy one. If your TSH is off, they have a thyroid medication they can give you that will show a change on blood work, right? So it will change the number, whether you feel better or not, right? How many of you have normal TSH and still feel like crap? That was me to a T. My TSH was always perfect, yet I still felt like crap. So the normal number, they can give you a medication, they have a fix for that, so they test it all day long, right? Everyone gets their thyroid tested. There isn't a pill for adrenal function, right? Unless you get to the point where you have a full-blown autoimmune adrenal issue like Cushing's or Addison's disease, that's a different situation. But if you're not in one of those two autoimmune areas, there is really not much medically they can do for your adrenal function. So why would they test it? Right? Are you following me? Because if they test it and it comes back and there's a problem with your adrenals, but they can't help you with it, they're just going to say, oh yeah, sorry, Margaret. Yep, your adrenals are all out of whack, but we don't really do much about that. It's probably because you're stressed or you're overweight or you should exercise or you should try and eat better. Want to try an antidepressant, right? Like those are the things we get. Whenever the traditional medical system doesn't have an answer for us, we get those generic, here's the things that we think are wrong with you. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for medicine. I'm not saying at all that thyroid medication is not necessary for some people. I'm saying we are missing vital pieces. Our bodies are not compartments, right? We're not just a thyroid separate from everything else. Your hormones, your adrenals, your thyroid, your gut, these things are all interconnected. And one of the biggest problems across the board with healthcare is that we go to a specialist for one thing. Someone else will check your heart. Someone else will check your thyroid. Someone else helps you with brain health. Someone else helps you with gut health. But none of those pieces connect together. And I will tell you right now, if you are struggling with symptoms, if you're exhausted, if you're gaining weight, if you have headaches, if you have autoimmune conditions, if you have a thyroid problem, a blood pressure problem, whatever it is, it's because you haven't connected all of those pieces so that your body can return to homeostasis. That is the presence of natural healthcare. That is our premise. That's what we believe in. We believe that the body needs no help to heal. It just needs no interference, nothing blocking it. And you've got to look for those areas of interference, adrenal glands being a major interfering piece of the puzzle, because if they're not working, look at how many other systems won't be working properly. Adrenals are the key, yet we don't look at them nearly often enough. So we've covered, if you have any of those symptoms that we went over, if you have had any of those health issues we went over, or if you are on a thyroid medication or having thyroid symptoms, you need to check your adrenal function. So doc, how do I do that? Is always the next question, right? How do I check my adrenals? Well, let me teach you a few things. You are going to end this class knowing more than your traditional medical doctors know about the adrenal. So you should have like an honorary doctorate from going through this today. So just like I asked all of you, has anyone ever checked your adrenal function? Yes or no? Have you had your adrenals tested? And if you have, how were they tested? There is a right way and there is a wrong way to test adrenal function. Number one, if you have only had your adrenals tested in blood, you have not had a comprehensive test for your adrenal gland. Here's why. If you check your adrenal glands in blood, you are only getting a one-time snapshot of what your cortisol, and if they're drawing enough values, they would also have checked DHEA. Both of those come from the adrenal glands, but you're only getting a one-point snapshot when your cortisol is actually made to be different at different times of day. It's supposed to go up in the morning to wake you up, have a nice spike mid-morning that turns on your metabolism, that gives you energy, that starts your fat burning, that increases your immune function. A nice spike mid-morning. It should slowly come down over the afternoon, and it should be its lowest right before bed so that your body can calm down and you can get ready for a restful night's sleep. And then in the morning, it should start to raise back up again. Which means if you only check one point during the day, what if your morning cortisol is perfect, but you have a big crash midday, right? If you only do your morning cortisol on a blood draw, you're missing all of those other times, but they'll tell you your adrenals are perfect. It's not an adrenal problem. You don't know that? What about maybe 2 hours of the day it's normal, but the other 22 it's not? You don't know that when you do it for a blood draw. So at minimum, we do 24 hours, a full day through either urine or saliva. That is the proper way to test your adrenal glands. I prefer urine, and I'll tell you as we go a little bit more about why I choose that instead. But if all they have done is checked your cortisol in blood, you have not had a proper adrenal check. It needs to be urine or saliva, and it needs to be over an entire pattern so you can see throughout the day what that looks like. So I'm going to drop this right here. We're going to keep talking about this as we go, but I know everyone always asks me right away, well, how do I get the right testing for my adrenal glands? So today, for being on the masterclass, we're actually doing a $50 off the Dutch test, which is my favorite test across the board, not only for adrenal mapping, but it also looks at your hormones. It looks at your neurotransmitters for brain health, looks at inflammation, it looks at vitamin deficiencies, it looks at all of your hormone metabolites to see if you're making healthy estrogen or inflammatory estrogen. I'll show you a lot more about this as we go, but I just want to offer and to also give you some peace of mind. This is the only thing that I'm offering tonight, right? Everyone always wants to know what she's selling, what's coming. This is it. This is the only thing that I'm offering for you guys is access to my favorite test at $50 off. And it also includes your test review appointment with one of my doctors. So typically it's my husband. That's who's in the picture right here. He usually does those first initial test read appointments. My schedule's very busy. We work with a lot of women, so I don't always get the opportunity to do those. But typically you're going to speak with my husband. He reviews the results with you. He lets you know what we found and helps you make an action plan moving forward. So if you know right away you want testing for your adrenals and your hormones, Dutch test is how we do it. The link is in the chat, so go ahead and claim that offer, get your $50 off. And again, purchasing that test includes the test read appointment, which is a tremendous value just to get some answers and some help. So take the pressure off of you. That is all we're offering tonight. And I'll keep talking a little bit more about the Dutch test as we go, but that's the best way to test your adrenals, to test your hormones and know exactly what's going on. So let's look at some examples of the Dutch test. So this is the test that we use, but here is what we're looking at. So with your adrenals, there are two different phases of adrenal fatigue. As I go through these, tell me if one of them sounds more like you than the other. So this is phase one. Phase one of adrenal fatigue is when we're still running on too much cortisol, high cortisol. So high cortisol is typically wired but tired. So maybe you're exhausted all day long, but as soon as your head hits the pillow, you can't sleep. Your mind's racing, your thoughts are racing, like you're go, go, go all day. You think you're going to crash at night, and then you're just up. That's typical of phase one. Phase one is also where we're feeling a little bit more anxious, tend to be a little bit hotter in nature. This is where we can feel like maybe we're a little bit more irritable, a little bit moodier, but you still have some energy. You are not worn all the way out. So the wired but tired was starting to get more irritable and really starting to feel some anxiousness, maybe some heart palpitations. Those are really big signs that you're in phase one of adrenal fatigue, which is too much cortisol. Now, this is pretty typical, and a lot of women feel like this. However, typically by the time you get to me, you've transitioned from phase one to phase two. Because in phase one of adrenal fatigue, you still feel pretty functional. You can get through your day, you can get stuff done. Yeah, you might not feel great, but you're kind of pushing through. You're still like, I can push through this, I can do this, I got this, trying to be superwoman. And you don't stop and take time to take care of yourself until you transition from phase one into phase two. And phase two is down here in the corner where the red line is completely flat. The free cortisol, the metabolized cortisol, the DHEA are all below range. This is the woman who's exhausted, right? The difference between phase one and phase two is you're no longer wired but tired. You're exhausted, right? You're the one who's waking up after a full night's sleep, still tired. Everything feels heavier. You're gaining weight. You can't get weight off. You don't even feel like exercising. Everything feels harder than it should be. You're starting to get brain fog that's going along with it. those signs, the deep tired, the brain fog, the overwhelm, the weight gain, these are really good signs that you've transitioned into phase 2 of adrenal fatigue. Now, the most important thing with phase 2 is once your adrenals get so tired, it starts to impact all of those other systems we talked about. So this is where you tend to start getting the hormone imbalance. This is where maybe there's a blood pressure issue. This is where maybe you're starting to get some blood sugar issues. Like you've never had blood sugar issues, and now your doctor says your blood sugar is starting to climb up. You're exhausted. Your adrenals are exhausted. So this is typically the phase where most things start to pop up. And if you notice in the same graph, this is mapped over 24 hours. So you're supposed to have this kind of higher cortisol in the morning to wake you up. Remember, we talked about the spike midday or mid-morning to turn on all your metabolism and your immune system and all the great things. And then it's supposed to gently come down in the afternoon, and then it's supposed to square off in the evening and then start all back over tomorrow. Well, this lady is flatlined, right? There's no spikes, there's no bumps. She's just meh across the board. And a lot of times that's exactly how you feel, right? Just like, I don't feel like I care that much anymore, right? I just lost interest because I'm so tired. That is really, really classic of phase 2 of adrenal fatigue. So tell me in the comments, which one of that is more like you? Are you more wired but tired? Or can you tell that your adrenals are just burnt out, you're exhausted, and you're in phase 2 for sure? Let me know in the comments. Phase 1 or phase 2 sound more like you? Now, here's the thing with phase 2. In phase 2, you're going to have to give your body time and space to heal, right? Phase 2 takes a little bit longer to fix, and we're going to go over some different things that it takes to fix them. But at this point, you really want to be careful that you're not pushing your body too hard. That's the most important thing. When your adrenals are fatigued, you actually don't want to exercise any harder, right? That could be too stressful for your body. You don't want to minimize your calories too much. You don't want to be in a calorie deficiency because your body needs energy. You don't want to choose this time to do a big project because your body's already overwhelmed. So once you know your adrenal pattern, it will also give you better understanding. Should I be exercising harder or not? Should I be doing a stricter diet right now, or can my body not handle it? Do I need to be, starting a new project, taking up a new sport, doing whatever? Or is now not the right time because my body's so tired? I need to build up that energy before I have some capacity to give it out to other activities and other things, right? Versus the person with high cortisol typically feels better after a workout. Typically, once they've expended some of that cortisol, their body gets a little time of rest, right? So if that makes you feel better, you're probably in phase 1. If workouts hit you hard and you're exhausted and you feel like you have to recover from a workout, you're probably in phase 2. And when you're in this phase, I'm going to ask you to rein it in. We're going to say very little, only low intensity workouts until your adrenals start to turn back on. Because even though exercise is a good stressor, it's still a stressor, and it can really put some pressure on those adrenal glands. So phase 1 and phase 2, most people, by the time you're here listening to this, most of you have started at least to transition into phase 2. And that's what we're really going to hit on from this point forward. What things cause, what's the root cause of this adrenal issue, what you can do to support it. And then we're going to continue to talk about testing. But you can even see on this page some of these other values that the Dutch test will look at. It checks your estrogen markers, your progesterone, your testosterone, all of your adrenal values. And this is only one of a 7-page report. This is my favorite test in the world. It looks at so many things, and it is also the most accurate way to actually test your hormones because it's also mapped through urine over 24 hours at specific times in your cycle if you're still a cycling female. Similar to adrenals, you don't want to test hormones in blood. It is not an accurate representation. You want to make sure you're getting it mapped over time through urine so you get lots more information. So the Dutch test across the board is my absolute favorite test. So if you want to grab that, I left that link up for you guys to grab the Dutch test. So again, $50 off masterclass only. So for being here, being with us, you get the offer to get that discount on your Dutch test. And truly, I recommend every single woman does the Dutch test. If it was up to me, this would be standard practice across the board every 2 to 3 years from the time you start your cycle. These girls at 13, 14 starting their cycle, they should be testing their hormones and adrenals before having babies, after having babies, in perimenopause, throughout menopause, and even in postmenopause. Women need to know what their hormone adrenal pattern looks like. I continue to do my Dutch test every 2 years like clockwork because I want to make sure I'm keeping up with what my body is doing. So even if you're not experiencing a ton of symptoms, it's valuable information that every woman should know about her body because we're hormonal beings, right? Our adrenals and our hormones do so much inside our bodies. It's important to know what yours look like. So regardless, you might be struggling a lot and this could be a great answer for you, or you just want to know so that you can really make the best decisions for yourself. The Dutch test for me I believe should be mandatory. One day I'm to infiltrate healthcare and make that happen. But for the moment, it's up to me to offer it to you guys and get it in your hand. So again, grab that in the link if you're ready to get your Dutch test. But let's get into some causes of adrenal fatigue. The good news is there's only two. There are two causes of adrenal fatigue. The bad news is there's about 100 different combinations of how that can show up in your body. So let's go through that together. The two causes of adrenal fatigue. Your adrenals only become fatigued when they've been overstressed and overworked over time. Okay, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't go from healthy adrenals to adrenal fatigue in 2 weeks. This is chronic stressors over time. Now, what I want to teach you guys right now is there are two different types of stressors. We always think emotional stress, right? We think work stress, life stress, home stress. And yes, that's present. That's there for a lot of people. Emotional stressors, life stressors, that's major. But there are also some very big physical stressors that can contribute to adrenal fatigue. So the two causes are physical stressors and emotional stressors, but there's lots of different ways that this can show up in your body. So as we go through these together, again, in the comments, tell me if I hit on one that you're like, oh yeah, I think that's me. Tell me in the comments. If more light bulbs are going on, tell me. I love to see how these things start to come out or how you start to click your pieces together as I teach this to you. So I'm going to go through different lists and different examples of physical stressors and emotional stressors that could be the root cause of your adrenal fatigue. Because even testing your adrenals, it's so important. You have to know what your patterns look like. Every woman should know what her hormones look like, but you also have to make sure that you're identifying for you what things have caused it. That way, as you work to heal them, they don't just crash again, right? Like, let's get every bang for our buck. Let's fix them and then allow them to stay that way by really addressing these next few things. That's how you're going to get long-term healthy adrenal function, because you've got to minimize the stress on the body, both physical and emotional. Number one of my favorite topics. If you watch my social media, I talk about hormones and adrenals all the time. It is something I'm so passionate about because women, nobody teaches us this. It isn't in our health classes. Half of this stuff they didn't even teach me as I was getting my doctorate. I had to learn this stuff after the fact. Nobody teaches us about our hormones, and it's necessary. We need to know those things. So a hormone imbalance is a physical stressor. If you have, in particular, this example is somebody who has low progesterone. Remember in the beginning, I told you progesterone makes cortisol. So if you have tired adrenal glands, your progesterone is going to come down. Low progesterone is linked to things like brain fog, migraine headaches, psoriasis, low libido, infertility. Low progesterone can cause bloating and gut issues. So low progesterone really creates a lot of symptoms in the body, and it can be directly linked to an adrenal problem, as well as estrogen dominance. So the other example on this page, and again, this is another page of the Dutch test, showing us your hormone pathways. One of the things I want to really bring to your attention is these circles at the bottom. If you can't read them, don't worry, I'll talk you through them. These are looking at this lady's estrogens. Now, her estrogens were actually really high. So if you have low progesterone and high estrogen, you are estrogen dominant. But one of the reasons I suggest the Dutch test over any other test, even saliva, a lot of people will ask that question. Well, I've had my adrenals tested through saliva. But even in saliva, you miss what I'm about to show you, which I believe is one of the most important things we get from this test. So what this shows us is once your estrogens are in the body, your body is supposed to use as much estrogen as it needs. and then metabolize or get rid of whatever's left over so that it doesn't get stuck in our tissues, like our breast tissue or our lymphatic tissue or our uterus. Because if estrogen gets stuck and builds up in those areas, tell me in the comments, what could that lead to? Right? We know that estrogen is linked to certain cancers when it builds up in the body. So you can actually see on the Dutch test if you have a tendency to build estrogen in your body that could become a problem later on, or if your body is making the right amount, getting rid of enough, and you don't have to have as much of a worry about building up these estrogens. We get to see that on the Dutch test. I mean, how valuable is that information to know? Because once you can identify it, you can start making changes and help support these pathways to make sure that you're getting only the right amounts of estrogen. So for this lady, what was happening is she had quite a bit of estrogen, but if you notice, as you come down into these pathways, she's well above range in this first one. She's kind of mid-range in the second two, and then she's well above range on this last one. Well, those are the pathways that are known to bind to and damage DNA. Damaged DNA means abnormal cell growth. Abnormal cell growth means anything from fibroids, endometriosis, potential cancers, inflammation. So these pathways are linked to those types of things. And I'll have people all the time say, "Oh, there's no cause of endometriosis," or "There's nothing that's linked to fibroid formation." Yes, there is. These pathways, researched through scientific mediums, and it's shown, yet we're never taught these things. So for me, the Dutch test is the way to go, because you don't get this through saliva. You don't get this when you do typical hormone checking through your blood. So for this piece of your puzzle alone, the Dutch test is worth every penny to know, are you making the right amounts of estrogen? Do you have inflammatory estrogen? Are you at risk for some of those things? What can you do to fix that? And what do all of your other hormones look like in relationship to each other? So this shows all of our hormone pathways and the potential of having abnormal estrogens, which both of those types of hormone imbalance, low progesterone, as well as estrogen dominance, can be causes of why your adrenals are so fatigued, because they have to work really hard to try and manage an imbalance like that. So hormone imbalance is one of those reasons. The second one can be neurotransmitters. What a lot of people don't know is the inside of your adrenal glands has two layers: the cortex on the outside that makes most of the hormone, and then the inside of your adrenal glands is actually brain tissue. It's very similar to the composition of our brain, and it makes neurotransmitters. It helps balance mood. It helps memory. There are things linking low dopamine, like this example right here, to things like Parkinson's, having neurotransmitter imbalances being linked to memory loss and dementia. And your adrenal glands can help protect that. So many people who have a history in their family of dementia or Alzheimer's, they're so fearful and they want to know what they can do to prevent it. And having healthy hormone and neurotransmitter balance is such a beautiful and simple way to give yourself a layer of protection. And one of the things the Dutch test will look at is your actual neurotransmitter balance. There's very few labs that can check that for you. So we get to see dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, which is your fight or flight. We get to see a marker that's called a neuroinflammation marker. Neuro meaning brain and nervous system. If you have inflammation in your brain and your nervous system, wouldn't you want to know that? Like, that's something I would want to know, because then I can work to fix it. But if you don't know, that's how these things spiral into disease and dysfunction, because we let them go too long. So this is another page of the Dutch test. We look at B vitamin markers, glutathione, potential gut dysbiosis, neurotransmitters, melatonin, oxidative stress, which is another inflammatory marker. All of these are values you get from the Dutch test. If you were to try and get all of these things individually in a blood lab, you would be paying well over $1,000. I have tried to do it. You can do just like a vitamin deficiency panel through blood, and it's $400 or $500. You'll get all of these values on the Dutch test, and with the discount that we're offering, it's $300, and that includes your test read with the doctor. Like, I don't mean to keep hammering it home, but that's an insanely valuable just experience for you. and it's $300 and it's worth every penny. And I promise you, there's going to be so much information on there. You're going to be so glad that you did it. So especially if you have brain health concerns, absolutely you need to get the Dutch test. The next one, so let's recap just for a second before we move forward. The two that we hit, that potential physical stressors for your adrenals. Number one is a hormone imbalance. Number two is a neurotransmitter or vitamin deficiency that we just checked. And then number three is any infections or things going on in the gut. So looking at this lady has in the red, we're looking at infections, multiple infections, but your gut communicates to everything. You've heard of the gut-brain connection, right? The gut-adrenal connection, the gut-thyroid connection. Your gut is connected to so many things. So I always ask people if they have any type of digestive issues, if you have constipation or bloating or loose stools, if you have food intolerances, those types of things, it's always worth looking to see if there's any other triggers in the gut that could be contributing to a physical stressor. Don't feel overwhelmed by all of this information. The best place to start is by getting your Dutch test. Let's see what your patterns look like. Let's see what your pathways look like. Let's see what your inflammation markers look like. And then on your test review call, we can guide you if any of these other tests would be necessary for you. I just want you to be aware of the potential triggers. And if you know, so you should be thinking to yourself, do I have digestive issues? Are there signs that there's something going on in my gut? If you have an autoimmune condition, I'm always going to recommend looking at the gut because a lot of these infections are tied to autoimmune issues. But especially if you have digestive issues like constipation, bloating, or loose stools, you're probably, right, light bulbs going on. Oh, maybe those physical stressors are why my adrenal glands are so weak. But start with the Dutch test, and on that test review, we can guide you to any additional testing you might need to find your root causes of adrenal fatigue. I just want you to be thinking and being aware. This one, and I know I'm going through a lot of stuff. You can come back and watch it. You'll get the replay. I know this is a lot of information, but I believe everyone deserves the information, right? I want to teach you the things no one else is so that you have the ability to make the best decisions for your own health, just like I did, because this right here was my cause of my adrenal fatigue. I had a chronic Epstein-Barr infection that was causing me tons of physical stress on my body, creating massive inflammation. If you don't know, Epstein-Barr virus is the virus that causes mono, but in some people whose body and immune system is weak, it can continue to reactivate and become a chronic infection. And that's what happened to me. And it's actually one of the things I love helping other women through because there's so few resources out there for chronic Epstein-Barr. This was my root cause. This was what taked my adrenals and threw my hormones off. And until I knew all of those pieces of my puzzle, I felt like I kept trying things and I was doing everything. I tried every nutrition plan. I took every vitamin. I tried everything somebody told me would work. And I felt like nothing I did was helping until I started taking care of my adrenals. I found my Epstein-Barr virus. I started piecing through all of those pieces of my puzzle. And now I don't have any of those symptoms. But it started with me finding my pieces one by one by one. And I want that. People can get really overwhelmed. I have to do all of these things right now. You just have to start finding your answers, okay? And then you have people to help guide you on those next steps. That's my favorite thing to do. But if you want to know a place to start, your best starting place is get a Dutch test. It gives you so much information. And then after we get those results back, then we'll be able to guide you if there's anything additional we need to look at. We'll look at your health history. We can review old labs. We can help you put all of your pieces together so you keep getting more and more progress. But to keep it really simple, your smartest place to start is getting that Dutch test. So remember that link is in the chat box, and you'll also have a link that gets sent out after you watch this. But I highly encourage you. The Dutch test is so important for every woman. Do not miss this opportunity to get it at a discount and have your test review appointment included. Normally that's an additional charge. So you are really saving a good $250 by getting it today with the masterclass and having your test review appointment included. I actually had a woman yesterday that I was on the phone with, and she's like, I've priced this out. There are people that are charging $1,500 just for the Dutch test and the review. She went to another doctor, it was $800 just for the Dutch test and the review appointment, nothing else but those two things. So truly you're just not going to get it at a better price than what we're offering right now. And that's the honest truth. And the reason I do that, I believe every single one of you deserves testing. And the more they're upcharged and the more they're inaccessible to so many people, you are missing valuable life-saving information from that Dutch test. So I would prefer not to skyrocket the prices of the test, make it more accessible to more people. And that way you're able to make choices to get your life and your health back on track. So we love to offer it at a reasonable rate. And I know that's not, some of you are probably thinking that's still a lot. It's worth it. Every single penny. So please, if you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, now is definitely the time. Not only are you getting the discount, you're getting your test review appointment, and you're getting, in my opinion, the absolute best test on the face of the planet that every single woman needs, not only for their adrenals, for their hormones and their inflammation and their neurotransmitters and your vitamin deficiencies. It's just so chock full of information. So don't miss that opportunity. It's really, really important. All right, let's move on. We went through physical stressors. Let's recap. We had hormone imbalance. We had neurotransmitter and vitamin deficiency. We had something going on in the gut infections like bacteria or yeast or potential parasites. We had a reactivated virus like Epstein-Barr virus. And now we're going to move into emotional stressors. So most of you have had some kinds of emotional stressors. Some of you more, some big traumas. Some of you it's just busyness. I want you to not compare your stress to somebody else's. Anything that feels stressful to you is impacting your adrenal glands. It doesn't have to be the major trauma. But if it is, and you've been through major trauma, girl, you have to support your adrenal glands. You have to test your adrenal glands and you have to support them. So if you've had some of these big ones, like an actual trauma, a loss or a death, if you've had really overbooked, overworked schedules, if there's family stressors, if your job is stressful, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't have an active daily self-care routine, your adrenals are struggling because of that. Or if you've had any major life changes, they even show something as, I want to say simple, but moving is not simple, but even a move or a change in jobs, even anything that's a life transition can put tremendous amount of pressure on your adrenal glands. So I want you to make sure you're not forgetting one or the other. There are very major physical reasons your adrenals can be fatigued, and there are very major emotional reasons why your adrenals can be fatigued. And for most of us, myself included, it was always a combination of both of those. So for the emotional stressors, one of the things I like to do with the women I work with is we do a lot of brain balancing exercises. I always say, I can't take your stress away, but I can teach you how to not allow the stress to destroy your body. So the one challenge I want to give every single one of you right now that you're going to implement immediately is you're going to commit to at least, bare minimums, you can do more of this if you have more time, but you're going to give me at least 5 minutes per day that you are going to sit and you are either going to do breath work. I'll teach you my favorite one in just a second. You're going to do a gratitude journal, or you can go outside in nature, especially if the weather's getting nicer. But for 5 minutes a day, you are going to take time to yourself, off your phone, away from other people, not doing anything else, just 5 simple minutes where you're alone with your own thoughts and your own body to really protect that nervous system. If you want to do a breath work, my favorite, simplest one is you breathe in through your nose for the count of 4. You hold it for 4. And then out through your mouth for 6. Do it with me. Don't just watch me manage my stress. Do it with me. So we're going to go in through our nose for 4. Hold it. Out through your mouth for 6. And repeat that for 5 minutes. Calm the nervous system. Strengthen your vagus nerve. That helps mood. That helps energy. That helps adrenal function. Or you can do a gratitude journal where you sit and write everything big and little that you're grateful for. Or you can simply go out in nature. Being around the outside environment has different ways to help you detox bad energy, that helps balance your ions. Any of those 3 things are fine, but I want you to commit here and now 5 minutes of at least one of those things per day. Tell me in the comments that you're committed, you're going to do it, because for the emotional stressors, that's a great start. There's other work you will need to do. That's a great place to begin calming your physical stress response. Okay? Challenge accepted. You can do it. I promise you, even 5 minutes will make a tremendous difference to really help just calm the physical stress of that body. I want to share with you one last story before I let you go. This is Melissa. Melissa was your classic over-exerciser. She had put on weight. She wasn't feeling good. She's like, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to go back and do it. She was hitting the gym. She was doing cycling classes. She was doing CrossFit. She was working out so hard with no result. In fact, she kept gaining weight. She was on a severely calorie restricted diet. She had a very stressful job, stressed to the max, not eating enough, working out too hard, and wondering why on earth the scale wouldn't move. She was having massive anxiety. She felt exhausted all the time. And not only was she not getting better, she kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then her cycle started getting bad, and then her skin started to break out, and she started to have all of these crazy symptoms. Yet she was the person, she literally said, I work harder than anybody at my health, and I cannot feel better, right? With that type of a life, stress to the max, overworking out, not eating enough, cycles are going crazy. What phase of adrenal fatigue do you think she was in? She was full on in phase 2, and she was over stressing her body. When she finally slowed down, she worked out way less, she got to eat way more, she started taking care of her stress, and she started supporting her adrenals and finding her root causes for her adrenals. This is less than a year later between these two pictures, and she had tried for years to get her weight to move and felt like nothing was working. Sometimes, my friends, you're doing too much and your body can't take it. If your body's already exhausted, more exercise, more dieting is never going to be your answer. Slow down, prioritize rebuilding your health, and allow your body to heal. But the way you need to do that is, number 1, get your testing, right? You need your testing. If she didn't get to see physically, I believe the first step in you healing is validation and confirmation that something's actually wrong, getting to actually see on paper, oh my gosh, my hormones are off, my adrenals are fatigued, and my neurotransmitters are off. For so many women, I'll have them just cry on that first test review. They'll just bawl. It's like, thank God something's wrong. I hear it all the time. I was so worried I was going to get this back and everything was going to be normal again, and I was going to be left in the same place, feeling terrible with no answers. The only reason your labs keep coming back normal is because you're only doing basic labs. If all you're doing is your typical labs that you're getting every 6 months or once a year from your primary care physician, and they keep coming back normal, you need better testing. When you invest in testing and you get a deep level of looking at your physiology from all aspects, you are going to find answers. And once you find those answers and you see them, you're validated, you know what's wrong, you finally get hope back, like, great, now there's a problem, now I can fix it because I actually know what's going on. And then you're able to get the results you've been looking for. But I always say it starts with testing. Get the right testing. Figure out what's going on first, and then you can make the right decisions moving forward to get your life back, to get your body back, to get your energy back. For most of you, to get your sex drive back, right? You hear that all the time. An exhausted body, you know what it doesn't care about? Sex. Doesn't care, right? You're too tired. Your adrenals are too fatigued. If you want to live that vibrant health, which is energetic, loving your body, feeling good in your body, it starts with knowing what your patterns are. Get your Dutch test, get some answers, and let's start making you a specific plan to get your vibrant health back. I hope you learned something. That was a lot of information. Tell me in the comments, what did you learn? What was your number 1 aha moment? What sparked for you? Tell me in the comments if you grabbed that Dutch test. I'm so excited to see your results. You will likely have your review with my husband, who is wonderful. He has been here through every step of my journey. And then you will also hear and see from me as well. But get your test, get your answers. I cannot wait to see what comes back to give you hope and a path back to vibrant health. So thank you for joining me for this adrenal fatigue webinar masterclass. Again, I'll try and come back and get to as many questions and comments as I can. And we'll see you soon.